A military mind, nigga. A military mind. We trading war stores.
Their bodies was found after midnight on the Suitland Parkway eastbound lanes between Stanton Road and Alabama Avenue Southeast. This is not to glorify or speak ill of the deceased. Every detail is public. Every photo came from either a newspaper print or it was given to me from an inside source. Lil Regal was from the Southside. He was only 16 years old, and according to law enforcement, he had a reputation for violence and got on their radar as early as 14. An associate of his said he might even be more vicious than Shorty Pop. Lil Regal's real name was Marcel, and he was one of the young, troubled youth coming up in the city in the early 2000s in a harsh part of town. A lot of disputes were settled through violence in that section, which is the Washington Highlands area of Southeast. On part 1, we mainly focused on Condon Terrace, a place that was called the most violent street in Washington back in the early 80s. In 1990, a report from the police came out in the Washington Post claiming that about 20 people were killed in a 9-month period on nearby streets in Washington Highlands surrounding the 800 block of Bellevue Street. They highlighted the murder of a young man named Walter Jones, who was only 21 years old at the time, and he was shot in a parking lot and ran a couple hundred yards and collapsed on the basketball court. But well after the feds broke most of those old crews up, the juvenile murder rate dropped tremendously between 93 and 2002 overall. But the neighborhood still produced a lot of young troubled juveniles like Marcel that kept getting younger and younger. More than 2,000 juveniles entered the system in a single year. About 1,200 were committed to the youth rehabilitation services, and over 400 of them had past arrest records. They wrote about Lil Regal later in the papers, referred to him as a neighborhood terror. April 22nd, 2004, Andre Lampkin, 26, shot and killed. Less than 6 months later, Sean Riley, 15, Michael Lanham, 32, shot in a 1300 block of Barnaby Terrace. And just 5 days later, Gregory Sam, age 41, was murdered nearby. The feds could have been fishing on a couple of these murders, tying them all to Marcel, considering that they had a young man on the loose with a violent nature. But according to their investigation and eyewitnesses that came forward, at least 2 of them murders were closed with Marcel's name attached as the shooter. At the time, the police put out flyers to other officers stating to arrest him on sight. The system is partially to blame, and you will see why in a minute. In the early part of 2004, the police caught him with a MAC-10 and a handgun. They believed he was seeking revenge for the murder of James Richardson, the 17-year-old football player at Ballou. After Regal got caught with those firearms, that led to a short stay at Oak Hill. For any out-of-town viewers who may be curious, Oak Hill is a juvenile detention center for youth offenders. His mentors pleaded with the Youth Services Agency to not send him home, not to send him back to the projects. Lil Regal needed more time away from the environment that he knew too well. One of his mentors stated, "I told him that it wasn't a good idea to release him. There were a lot of things going on in the streets. He needed more rehabilitative treatment." But the system failed to honor that request, so they sent him back home. Sometime after that, they lost track of him. He disappeared from his aunt's house, and then, September 2005, another victim was hit. A woman named Cheryl Stover, who was shot and left critically wounded. According to reports at the time from the police, it was early, close to 3:30 in the morning. They mentioned the dice game and claimed Marcel lost money and wanted it back, and that's when it happened. These are the only details that were published publicly. Stover survived at the time, but her 70-year-old mother had a heart attack days after the shooting and died. The victim, Cheryl, ended up going from the hospital to a nursing home in Maryland due to her injuries. Back in April of 2024, she passed away. And then on February 10th of this year, 2025, the feds ruled her death a homicide as a result of the 2005 shooting in the 600 block of Atlantic Street Southeast. This made Marcel's name circulate all over again online on countless blog sites saying suspected shooter was just 16 years of age. In this photo, Marcel, aka Regal, is with a close friend of his named Kevin Jackson, aka Popcorn. From my understanding, he was a pretty cool youngin' who grew up in the same area as Marcel. Kevin was just 17, and to be clear, law enforcement did not tie him to any of the homicides. The only connection they made was the fact that these two young guys were friends, two friends that were together less than a month after Cheryl was shot. So on October 17th, 2005, about 12:33 a.m., both Marcel and Kevin were found after being shot and murdered and left on the Suitland Parkway. It's a very unfortunate ending for two young black males from Southeast who lost their lives early as juveniles. We don't know all the details, but from the outside looking in, it seems like Kevin became a victim by association. And if all of the information that was reported was true about Regal leaving the trail of bodies, then we know how that can sometimes end for anybody. May all of the victims rest in peace, and please keep in mind that this is not a speak ill of the dead video. There's a lot of young misguided juveniles, and the sad part about them losing their life is the fact that they couldn't get a chance to make things right, to make necessary changes, to grow and learn the meaning of empathy or to value life. It's a reason why Marcel's mentor said he needed more time to sit down in a youth facility. It's a reason why in the past I said sometimes prison is necessary. It's not wishing jail on someone, it's actually wishing that they live. When there's no turning back, when there's no getting away from the projects or ghettos, you don't have family in the suburbs, and a young man who's caught up in beefing don't want to hear nothing or listen to anyone. Sometimes the only thing that may keep them alive is confinement, long enough to grow and develop mentally. What's worse, the graveyard or a prison cell? Thanks for tuning in.
You know they got me trapped in this prison of seclusion.